Hi, welcome back. Today we're gonna do a January book reading wrap up. Kind of late to the game, but better late than never. So let's get right into it. I read 5 books, technically maybe 4 because I'm still finishing the last one. I wasn't sure whether to mention it in this video or maybe like a February reading wrap up, but I think I'm just gonna mention it here. So I'm gonna go in the order that I read them, obviously, and I'm gonna give you a short little summary, my thoughts on it, and then my overall rating out of 5. First book that I read is The Sun and the Star. This has Greek or Roman mythology in it, Greek gods. The main character is the son of Hades. I don't know a lot about this kind of mythology, but I know Hades is like underworld, dark, that kind of stuff. And the son of Apollo, which is the exact opposite. The sun, brightness, positivity, all that kind of stuff. Together, they go on a journey to the underworld to save a long-lost, banished friend. 2 main characters, they are in a relationship, so there's also that component, a little side story. Really interesting. I believe it's also a part of it's from the world of Percy Jackson. I've never read a Percy Jackson book in my life. I've never watched the movies either. So the fact that I had no reference to this or Greek mythology and still enjoyed it says a lot. It's very accessible. If you find that concept intimidating, don't worry, you might be a little confused or lost at some points, but it all kind of comes together and it does make sense. You can make a lot of assumptions based on the references. Also, I'm not usually a big fantasy person, but this book kind of reminded me of what like a good fantasy can look like, and that I can enjoy a fantasy. Overall, I really enjoyed this book. My only criticisms that come to mind, as I mentioned, the main characters are in a relationship. Some of the banter was really adorable, playful, but in the same note, some of it was also like verging on kind of sappy, maybe a little cringe. I feel like that's kind of representative of the targeted group. I think this is more of like a middle school, beginning of high school aged book, but I still really enjoyed it. I would say some of that dialogue makes sense for their age. And then the other thing is, this book is like, it's pretty long. It's like 460 pages. And throughout all of it, I really didn't notice how long it was. Just within the last 50-ish pages near the end, I did feel like it was dragging. Yeah, needless to say, I rated that a 5-star. I was very pleasantly surprised by this book. It looks a little intimidating. It's thick. It's a fantasy. It involves Greek, Roman, whatever gods. It's a part of the Percy Jackson world, so I was a little worried going into it, but pleasantly surprised by it, and it's a 5-star for me. Not to mention, I finished this book in like 3 days, so that tells you enough. I was so into it, and I'm a slow reader. Next is Felix Ever After. I originally started reading this book like multiple years ago, and I DNF'd it because honestly, it wasn't interesting. It did not keep my attention. It's about a trans guy who goes to a private school, but he's on a scholarship. Everyone around him is pretty well off. He's also, I believe he's mixed. I want to say he's mixed. He's navigating his school life, his trans and black identity. He's also queer. And throughout the book, he's being blackmailed by this anonymous person online. I think that's the part that mostly lost me, to be honest. I wasn't that into it. I got like halfway through when I DNF'd it, but I picked it up more recently because, well, I wanted to give it a chance, but I also don't like leaving books half read on my bookshelf. It's like a pet peeve. I need to finish it. That's the main reason why I picked it up again. And I finished it. I kind of had to push myself through it, to be honest. I think it's honestly just my preference thing. I'm sure there are people who really enjoy this book, and that's amazing. I think just for me, it didn't click. It was so slow. Like, this book is, let's see, it's not short. It's like 350 pages, and the plot was so slow. I was just very uninterested, and I felt like the ending was very cliche. Like, I predicted it from midway through. But to anybody that did enjoy this, that's amazing. I'm glad you did. I appreciate the trans rep, that's why I bought it. But yeah, it just wasn't for me. I gave it 3 stars. Next up is Ace of Spades. I have seen this book in the bookstore forever. Every time I go into chapters, I always look at this one, pick it up, read the back, but I never ended up buying it. I don't know why. I finally bought it this month, and I read it in literally 3 days. It was so good. It's about these 2 Black students who go to a private school, predominantly white. They start getting anonymous messages from this person or group, they're not really sure, who just seems like they're out to get them, and it's both of these students. They're the only Black students at the school, and they're the only ones experiencing this. I heard it compared to a mixture of Pretty Little Liars and Get Out, I believe. And I've never watched Get Out, but I've watched Pretty Little Liars, and I would say that is very accurate. Honestly, I'm not going to tell you any more about it. I think you just have to go into it kind of blind, and that's the best way. It does address homophobia, racism, and white supremacy, so keep that in mind. I found it to be very eye-opening in terms of discussing racism and white supremacy and really getting down into the issues and showing it in a fictional sense. It was very eye-opening and also jarring at the same time. A shocking thriller mystery type of thing, and if you're looking for a quick-paced, really entertaining book, I would recommend this book. It's also super thick, but trust me, you'll get by it so quick. I think I read it in like 3 days, which again is crazy, and I rated it a 5-star. If that doesn't convince you, I don't know what will. Next up is Fake Dates and Mooncake. This story follows the main character, a 17-year-old who works at his family's Chinese takeout place. They're struggling to stay open, and they apply to this mooncake making contest. He meets this rich teenager, and they get in a relationship. I feel like I'm really surprised that I enjoyed this book as much as I did. I feel like on the outside, looking in, it's predictable, and it has a lot of typical tropes. It has like the whole fake dating thing. I've never been a fan of fake dating. It has one bed. It's kind of, I don't know if rich versus struggling financially is a trope, but that kind of thing. Very cliche in some ways, but for some reason I still enjoyed it, and I found it really entertaining. I think I was just in need of this kind of fluffy read at the time, and it just did exactly what I wanted. Overall, I gave it a 3.5. I would recommend it if you're just looking for a quick fluffy read. Yeah, I feel like it's nothing to write home about, but it's entertaining. Last book of January, still currently reading this one. I've kind of hit a reading slump after chowing down on 4 books in like 3 weeks. Crazy for me. That's completely unheard of. I've never done that before. So yeah, I'm hitting a bit of a slump. I have not read for like a week or 2. But it has nothing to do with this book. Personally, this book is very good. This is The Marrow Thieves. It's a dystopian story about indigenous people. It's kind of apocalyptic in a way, not with zombies. The world has essentially been destroyed by natural disasters and this phenomenon where people cannot dream. They have lost their ability to dream. The only people who haven't are the indigenous people, and everyone else originally seeks advice from them, but then turns on them and uses their bodies to extract the dreams out of them from their bone marrow. That's why it's called The Marrow Thieves. Very interesting concept. I think it is a allegory for residential schools. Residential schools are mentioned in this. It's kind of like the world's repeating that cycle. It navigates an Indigenous boy who is separated from his family, and then he finds another group of Indigenous people and they go traveling. I can't remember how it ends because I originally read it so long ago, but I do remember it being a very good ending, so I'm excited to see where it goes. Right now, I think I would give it a 4-star. I think I have to see how it ends to give it a full rating, obviously, though. I wasn't sure whether to include it for this month, but I thought I might as well mention it anyway, because I'm not sure if I'm going to do a February reading wrap-up. So yeah, these are all the books that I read this month. I feel like I got really lucky with my selection. 2 5 stars is really good for me, and I feel like the 5 stars that I read reminded me of why I love reading. It ignited that spark for reading. Right now I'm in a reading slump again, but I was on fire this month, as you can tell. I've never read this many books in such a short span of time in my life. Definitely recommend Ace of Spades and The Sun and the Star. Also the other ones, if you are interested in their concept, you might like them. I hope you enjoyed. I'm deciding whether I should do a February reading wrap up. I'm not sure, since I'm already in a reading slump and I'm not sure if I'm actually going to get through any books this month. If I get through a significant amount again, then I will definitely do a reading wrap up, but I guess we'll just have to see. Comment down below if you've ever read any of these and what you thought, and what books you've read and enjoyed recently. Happy reading. Bye.